In this video, I'm going to break down step by step exactly how to learn Revit quickly so that you can start entering the industry as someone that is very skilled and position yourself as an expert. If you know Revit and you want to take it to the next level, I'm also going to show you how to learn that very efficiently and very effectively. The reason I'm making this video is because I see a lot of people spending way too much time on the wrong things, learning the wrong things, and frankly wasting their time. Whereas if they use that energy, that time to learn the correct things, they're able to do it effectively and actually make progress in their career without feeling like they don't know enough. Okay, let's get started. So this is exactly how to become a Revit expert quickly. And this is for architects and engineers who are looking to level up in their careers very fast. And the reason I'm making this video is because I personally was able to go from Monash University graduate to BIM coordinator within the first 6 months of my career, right? And the only way I was able to do that was actually by learning the foundation of Revit. If I didn't know Revit, then I wouldn't have been able to leverage that skill in order to go to the next position. And now as a BIM coordinator, after some time, I'm actually transitioning to project manager. So I'm able to go from Revit modeler to BIM coordinator to project manager and move into that management skill set very quickly. And the reason I was able to do that is because this foundational skill of Revit that no one else was willing to learn at this age. And because I was willing to learn that and take advantage of the opportunity, I was able to grow quicker. So this is me at uni. This is me 6 months into my career where I was a coordinator, and then I started going on site and learning more things. I got that opportunity from work as well, right? So if I had spent years learning Revit like everyone else, right, through their career, then it would have taken me the average time in order to grow in my career, and I didn't want that to happen. So I was proactive, I took advantage of this opportunity, and I learned Revit quickly, and I was able to show that to employers, and this is the reason why I was actually able to grow in my career faster than everyone else. So I truly believe that you grow into these, if you have these big ambitions like project manager, BIM coordinator, manager, the foundational skill set that is going to set you up, is going to anchor you and serve as like the keystone for your success, is going to be the skill of Revit. Because from this, you can transition into any path you want depending on, but you have this base skill, right? You never have to worry about money ever again because you're skilled, and you're always going to be positioned in a correct place in order to learn the entire skill set, right? So learning Revit is very important. So I was actually able to start modeling, working on coordination, managing very large projects very quickly in the BIM industry as a result of this blueprint, which I took, I'm about to reveal to you. And within the first year or so, I was able to be involved in the design and coordination of hospitals, prisons, and aged care, schools, luxury apartments, houses. If you total up pretty much all the projects which I learned over the first, I was engaged in over the first 6 months to 1 year of my career, they were probably over $500 million, close to $1 billion, right? And that is the opportunity which I got, and I was able to get that because I was able to learn this at a very early on stage in my career, right? So in this video, I'm going to show you 3 things. The first thing is why learning Revit correctly will be one of the best investments you will make in your life. So if you're on the fence right now, or you don't know Revit right now, I'm this is going to hammer in the point that this is something you need to be doing now, right? Then I'm going to explain to you why 95% of people do it wrong. This is what most people do wrong. And then why learning Revit, and they learn Revit in a completely unnecessary way, teaching them unnecessary things, wasting their time, and showcasing useless things to employers. So imagine spending all your time, months, 6 months even. Some people do Revit courses for 6 months trying to learn the skill set, which is completely redundant. And then they go and they're like, oh, why can't I learn this? Some people do masters in BIM. And they go and they start applying to jobs, and they realize I learned all this thing about BIM while I was in uni. I have a master's degree, but I can't actually apply this in the industry. And they're wondering why, because I should be able to, right? And this is not the 95% of people that I'm talking about, because doing a master's is good in terms of academic performance, but there is a very, very common mistake that a lot of people make that I'll go into, right? And then third of all, exactly how to showcase your skills and position yourself as an expert after you have learned Revit. And this is the most important. And if you stay until the end, I'm going to show you my blueprint job acquisition strategy, which works if you do not have a job or you are looking to get into a job which is one level up from your current job. So if you want like a 20% raise, you're a modeler and you want to become a coordinator, or you don't know anything and you want to become a modeler, I'm going to show you my job acquisition strategy, which I've used. Four of my friends after me have used that, and then I started implementing this with all the people that I work with, because I train people. I do exactly what I'm explaining in this thing. I work with people and I teach them this whole skill set, and I have 100% success rate in implementing this strategy and getting them into the jobs which they want, right? And 100% of the people that I've showed this to have been able to get this result, and I've never seen it fail. So don't skip until the end until I reveal that, because you need to understand all the information in here before I show you that. You need to understand the whole, like what I'm about to explain to you is the current position of the market, what the market is positioned as and what it is, so you can understand that holistically before it starts to click in your mind what exactly you need to do, right? So no matter if you're a Revit beginner and you've never touched Revit, or if you know it and you want to take it to the next level, this is going to completely change the game. And I promise you, everything that you see in this video is nothing regurgitated from YouTube. This is all from my experience and what I've taught other people and what I've guided other people do and make changes in their life. So this is completely unique, and that is the whole point of making these videos and putting this on this YouTube channel, right? So have you realized this about the industry recently? Like nearly every single company is shifting over to using Revit as a standard within their company. Okay, so like everyone is now using Revit. Companies that used AutoCAD are now switching over to Revit exclusively. So people using AutoCAD are moving on to Revit. I know like a lot of electrical contractors in the MEP space, they used to get away with using AutoCAD. That used to be something that AutoCAD was like really popular for. And now they are no longer using AutoCAD. They're using Revit, and they need to use Revit or they don't even get jobs in the first place. So you're forced to learn Revit, right? It's something that is compulsory. It's becoming mandated. Companies that are using ArchiCAD are now moving on to using Revit. You don't know how many people I have talked to that have told me that they are now learning Revit because their company is making the transition next year or like right now, and they need to learn Revit because ArchiCAD is now going out the window. They're using Revit. And the reason for this is because Revit has all these brand new features, which I'll talk about later, that is making it easier, and they pretty much have a monopoly in the market. So learning this is the most important thing, right? Companies that are using things like Tekla, even structural engineers, they're shifting over to using Revit most of the time because they need to be able to coordinate. This is less, but you'll see a lot of people using ArchiCAD switching over and AutoCAD switching over for sure. But Tekla is still making the transition, right? You'll probably also notice that every single entry-level or mid-level position requires knowledge about digital construction. You'll notice that all your managers and that everyone that you look up to that is skilled in your company is very proficient at Revit, knows how to do coordination, and has a multidisciplinary skill set. Okay, read this again. This is important. Every person that you look up to in your company, every person that you deem as successful is proficient in Revit, knows coordination, has a multidisciplinary skill set. This is a key because when you think about learning Revit, you think about doing this and then stopping. You don't think about these two and then you give all these excuses as to why you can't find a job, right? You need to learn all these three, and I'll go through this in a bit, but like this is the high level of what I'm about to explain to you, right? Think about your bosses and think about the people that are in the industry that know this very well. They know these three things. You'll notice that this shift started happening around the mid 2010s, like 2015, 16, but then companies, they were quite resistant towards embracing this new technology. Like they didn't want to put Revit on the cloud and do this collaboration, this coordination stuff. And then a lot of people, because of that, a lot of people were still using AutoCAD, right? AutoCAD was popular, 2D models were popular, ArchiCAD was popular because Revit hadn't taken chokehold over the industry. Because Revit and Autodesk now are dominating, but back then in 2015, that was when it started. And the reason for that, let me tell you, is because this is the Revit major updates. In 2015, BIM 360 is introduced, okay? When BIM 360 was introduced, there was a little bit of resistance. There was quite a lot actually between all the companies because they didn't want to put their models on the cloud and collaborate. They didn't think that it was actually, it's like, remember when we had Microsoft Word? Like you have Microsoft Word on your computer now, it's probably the subscription. Back when you could just pay like $150 and get Microsoft Word for life, everyone was happy because everyone was like, oh, this is like, yeah, Microsoft Word, I have it on my computer, one-time payment, that's it, right? But now, what happens? Every single company, Microsoft, Adobe, all these big companies are now changing over to subscription models, Premiere Pro, subscription models, where you have to pay per month and you get the latest update all the time. So if you look at your computer, you have Microsoft, PowerPoint, Excel, They're all subscription-based models, and all of these models are on the cloud. You don't even have to save it because it saves it automatically. Do you remember a time where, look this is on Google Docs, which wasn't even a thing some time ago. This wasn't mainstream. I would have done this on my computer, on my notes, but now I'm doing this online. I don't have to click save. It just saves automatically. There's a lot of collaboration features. I can share this with anyone, right? This is what happened when BIM 360 was introduced. All these features came to life, but it took some time for the industry to actually accept this and then everyone to start coming in being like, oh, this is actually good for us. Now, the same thing's happening with Word and Microsoft. Everyone is using it. Everyone is collaborating, all right? Right? But like, this was the exact same situation when BIM 360 was introduced, the ACC was introduced. People were resistant, but now, within those 5 years from 2015 to 2020, people started to like take advantage of this. There were early people that like adopted it really early into the company. They started using it. They started becoming really good, efficient, reducing costs and collaborating really well. And then companies started to use it way more, right? In 2020, when we had all that virus, everyone was at home and everyone in the construction industry was working at home, doing models. And like the construction and design phase for a lot of projects still went on. But it went on and it digitalized on the computer. And because of this, now you were coming at the other side of that whole process that was like steroids for this whole BIM construction industry. And we're in 2024 and BIM is incorporating AI into its processes. Because of this reason, because of this is Revit, this is Autodesk Construction Cloud, this is Autodesk, right? Because of all this, from 2024 to 2029, there is going to be a doubling in the BIM industry. And I keep saying this because it is so important. If you thought that there was a huge increase from 2015 to now, wait till you see what's going to happen in the next 5, 10, 15 years. And that's why you need to not only learn Revit, but you need to learn the whole BIM process. And that's why it's so important, right? So, again, this is what I talked about. We talked about 2015, 2020, and then you had that issue with the virus, and then all these things happen, and now everything's moving on to AI. So after 2020, moving to 2024, you notice that most companies have actually made the shift because they're either not getting projects because clients ask them to have some sort of digitally aligned construction. Like clients are saying, okay, what is the whole BIM process? Like when these clients are signing builders and signing consultants and architects in order to help them bring their idea to life, they're saying, hey, I want to see this in real life on BIM and I want to see it coordinated. And I want all the decisions to run past me through the coordination software. And so because of that, and because companies are actually starting to implement that, it is becoming the industry standard. So you do not only need to learn Revit, because it's not enough to just have Revit. You need to learn this whole BIM skill set, which I'm about to outline, right? So a lot of companies are disadvantaged in the industry due to the inefficiencies caused by their current programs, because Revit and Autodesk have seamlessly been able to integrate AI into their whole thing. That's things like clash detection, which is all automated, all these things, and AI document scanning, and companies like Deep Space, which is coming, and I'll make a video about that later on. It is integrating with BIM 360, with Autodesk Construction Cloud, and extracting data, and we're able to analyze this, right? All these things is the reason why it's growing really fast, right? So what do I mean by this, right? In simple terms, Revit and Autodesk, like I said before, are a monopoly now. They are becoming a monopoly. So everything else is going away. So if you want to find a way to grow quickly and take advantage of this, learn these two things, and don't only learn Revit, learn the BIM skill set. And learning Revit is very important because of that reason, okay? And it's unlikely to change any moment in the future because of this whole process which I just talked to you about. No other company had a history like this. Only Autodesk, Revit had a history like this, and that's why they're able to take a grip on the industry so rigidly, right? So like I said, like 2024, 2029, I keep saying this all the time, but it's doubling. So you need to learn this now, okay? The way I like to think about growth in your career, there's two variables. There's growth in your skills and there's growth in the industry, okay? Let's just focus on career growth for a second, right? I want you to get out of the listening mode, and I want you to put your thinking hat on, because I'm going to ask you a question right now, and I need you to think about this. There's two things. I want you to consider two variables. One is when we're thinking about career growth, okay? Let's talk about that. There are two things. One is your personal career growth in skills, okay? Career growth is how you evolve from position to position, and also how you evolve in terms of finances, okay? That's what career growth is. There's two variables for that. One is how is the industry evolving? Variable number one. Variable number two is how do you evolve with your skills? two variables, okay? I want you to keep that in mind because I'm going to tell you three like different scenarios that can happen. Three different scenarios can play out. If you learn the skill faster than the industry changes and grows, then you have a competitive advantage. You grow quicker than the industry evolves, so you are on top. You are ahead of the curve, right? You have an edge. Scenario number two, if you learn the skills at the same rate as the industry advances, then you maintain or stay stagnant, okay? This is interesting because you might think that you're learning new skills, but you're actually staying stagnant because you're growing. You have the illusion of growing, but you're staying stagnant because the industry is actually growing with you, okay? Important. Third one, if you do not learn the skills, but the industry changes and the industry grows, which is, by the way, happening, it's very evident that that's happening, then you have not actually done any work, and you haven't done any work, and you haven't learned any more skills than what you've known for the last 5-6 years. You've actually deteriorated in your career. You've actually gone backwards. And that's interesting because you might be a Revit modeler, you might know Revit, you might know the basics of it, and you might have been working for 2 to 3 years, but the industry is growing without you. Look at this. But you're not growing because you're not learning the new skills. You're not learning the BIM skill set. So if the industry grows and you don't grow, you stay stagnant. You might think you are staying stagnant, but you are actually, there is now a gap between you and the industry. And this means that you have a skill set which is not matching the needs of the market. And so now you find it hard to get jobs. And this is why you get stuck in a job that you don't like because you don't even have the capacity to move to another company, which might have a better work-life balance, a better salary, some sort of benefit where you get to work from home, right? Something where you can work virtual, all these things. You don't even have the capacity to choose that because you thought you were stagnant, but you actually have now a gap because the industry is evolving, okay? Because we're in an industry that is constantly evolving. So you need to be on top of everything all the time, right? So that's interesting, okay? You see that you might actually think that you are stagnant in your career, the second example, but you're actually, or like the third example, but you're deteriorating and sinking lower and lower in your career and you're making negative progress. That's the third example. So the bare minimum is for you to at least grow at the same rate that the industry is growing at, and this will result in you being stagnant, being average, but you will think that you're growing. So that's interesting, right? But I recommend learning at a rate which is a bit faster than the industry so that you can stay on top of the knowledge curve, have an edge, have a competitive advantage, and grow quickly in your career, okay? And this is exactly how to become a Revit expert quickly. What I'm trying to tell you is it's not just about Revit. It's about learning these other things because everyone thinks that you just need to learn Revit and become very good at that and model like 6 different houses, put it on your portfolio and start applying for jobs. But that's not the case. Look at this. The BIM industry is evolving, not the Revit industry. So if you just become better and better at Revit, nothing is going to happen for you because you're just becoming better at one thing, which is, it's like you want to become a good manager, but you only learn one of the traits of a manager. Like a manager is probably good at leadership. Like a good leader is good at communicating, problem solving, attention to detail, all these things. Imagine you were just good at attention to detail and you weren't good at communicating or anything else. And you just try to get better and better and better at it, like being attention to detail, but you don't learn anything else. And you're wondering, why am I not growing in my career? Well, it's because you're only learning the one thing that doesn't matter because you've already learned it to a proficient level, right? You need to learn the other things. And so becoming good at Revit is an illusion. When you think you're becoming good at Revit, I know the reason you want to become good at Revit is because you want to grow in terms of you want to get a job or you want to get a promotion, right? So you either want to feel like you're either working right now and you feel like, okay, the next level for me is I need to become a master at Revit so that I can get a promotion. You are not going to get a promotion if you become a master at Revit. It's not going to happen. The only way you're going to get a promotion is if you learn the skill set that your boss has. Your boss is not a master of Revit. You might know more than your boss, or you might know the same amount. Because to be honest, you can Google anything you want and find anything online about Revit. The only thing that's going to take you to the next level if you're currently modeling is learning the coordination skill set, because now you start to develop your multidisciplinary skill set and thinking like your boss does, right? That's how you take it to the next level, not learning more of what you currently know. And if you don't even know Revit in the first place, then doing 20 different models from YouTube videos and just putting that on your portfolio and saying, I know how to model a house, is not going to get you anywhere, because you're only learning one thing. You're not learning construction documents, multidisciplinary skill set, coordination, MEP, structural. You're not learning the basics of all these things and having a holistic understanding and learning the coordination skill set and learning the construction documentation. If you don't do that, then how do you expect to grow if you only like do 2-3 models and put it on your portfolio, right? So you might feel like you're doing the same job over and over again, and you're working as a Revit modeler, but you're actually stagnant, because in this definition, growth equals stagnation, because the environment is also growing. That's what I said before. Like, I'm talking about scenario 2 here, right? So like, you need to be growing, and you might feel like you're growing, but you need to always be checking, are you growing in the right direction, and are you learning the skills that the market actually wants? Because if you learn the skills that the market doesn't want and you keep refining the wrong skills, you will never get there. Okay? Again, I say this a lot, but if you've been using Revit for a few years, you need to learn coordination so you can start to grow and expand. And if you haven't learned Revit yet, you need to learn that very quickly. And you don't only need to learn Revit and how to model houses, you need to learn construction documentation and the process of the industry, and how, like, for construction documents, for approval documents, construction documents, as-built documents, how everything is updated, and what's the, like, when does each stakeholder come into the project? How does the coordination process happen? You need to have a good understanding about all of this, so then you're able to go and start plugging yourself into, like, the work when you actually get a job, right? Again, it's not about how hard you're rowing the boat, it's about the boat you are in. So if you are, this is the Revit beginner boat. Like, you learn the skill, it's quite hard, you're rowing, okay? Good, you have some momentum, at least you're not standing on the side of the bank. But after some time, you need to become proficient at Revit, okay? And this isn't actually the Revit proficient boat, this is the, so you become proficient at Revit. So you learn the basics of Revit, you become proficient at Revit, you learn the construction, documentation skill set. Like, you learn what it is. When you look at a construction set of documents, you know what it looks like. You know the wall partition plan. You know the details. You know how to detail a floor plan. You know how to detail elevation plans. You know how to detail facades. All these different things, right? And you have a general understanding about the standards. Not too in depth, but general understanding. And then after you learn the BIM skill set, now you're on like a borderline jet ski, because you have a motor. And it doesn't matter how hard you're rowing in here, you're still going to just take off and you're going to continue going, because you have the right skill set. This guy, the Revit beginner, doesn't know anything about the construction process, MEP services, structural, architectural. He just knows, or she just knows, how to model a house on YouTube and how to model like an apartment building on YouTube, right? This person knows, okay, how do I model a house? How do I model an apartment? But I know a little bit more about the construction process. Like, I know how to detail. I know the construction documentation set. This person knows everything about what I just talked about, plus the coordination aspect. So their skill set is multidisciplinary, okay? So when it comes to learning Revit quickly, you want to quickly go from here to here, okay? That is your job if you're brand new to Revit. It's about, okay, learn the basics of Revit. Like, you could learn that in a few hours on YouTube, like how to place a floor, how to place a ceiling, how to place walls. I have a whole YouTube playlist for that. If you want, you can go build that basic house that I just go through. And then after that, you are here, okay? After this, you know Revit. The next step is do something where you know how to do the whole construction set of documents. Now you have insider knowledge, like you essentially have done a project. Now you can go to a workplace and be confident saying that you know how to do floor plans, elevations, details, wall partition plans, right? Wall details, elevation details, section, like all these different things. You know how to actually present things in a proper graphical manner. Like when you're doing sections, you know how to put the shadows properly so everything looks nice. Everything is really important like that, okay? So then now after you learn the BIM skill set, that's when things start to really transform. But you probably need to be, after you get to this stage, you can then start to apply for jobs. A lot of people start to apply for jobs after this stage, and it doesn't matter how many jobs you apply for. When you're here and you're trying to row in your boat, you get very tired very quickly. When you're here, it doesn't really matter. You can cruise along and eventually you will get a job, Okay, so your job is to not only learn Revit, but to learn the construction set of documents. Important, okay? If there's one thing you take from this video as a Revit beginner, it's don't apply for jobs at this stage, apply for jobs at this stage, because this stage you will go there naturally. This stage requires a lot of labor, a lot of manual input and hard work, and you're probably going to get burnt out before you actually do get a job here. Let me ask you a question. Which boat are you in currently? Okay? And why does this actually matter? Okay, because later on when you're applying to jobs, which boat you're in will determine if you are successful or not. If you only know how to model a few apartments using Revit and you work really hard to apply and get jobs, you're essentially trying to row really hard in the first boat. If you just made a few tweaks, moved into the second or the third boat, it wouldn't even matter how hard you're rowing because the boat will take you where you need to get to, okay? If you haven't realized, boat equals skills. So if you don't understand by now, there's specific special skills that you need to learn in order to get to the third boat, and that's what's going to allow you to position yourself as an expert and get really successful using Revit. Getting successful in Revit is not about getting successful in Revit, is what I'm trying to tell you. Because the reason you try to look for becoming successful and very good at Revit is because you want to position yourself as someone that is able to get a job or able to get a promotion. Becoming better at Revit and becoming an expert, like you know it inside and out. Some people don't even know, and they've been working in the industry for 10 years, right? You learn a certain skill set, you learn how to do floors, elevations, you learn the construction set of documents, and you don't really deviate from there. Like you YouTube and Google a lot of things on the job. But what you really need to learn is the thing that you're going to do when you work, which is the construction set of documents and the coordination skill set, okay? So Revit is the keystone of the skill set that you can't even dream of, right? So there are certain jobs that just seem like dreams to you, like BIM, like coordination and becoming a senior architect, starting your own firm, becoming a project manager, becoming a general manager. Revit is the first step in order for you to get to any of these things. And the reason for that is because through Revit, you can become a BIM modeler, then you can get into coordination. And then when you're coordinating, now you're learning a multidisciplinary skill set. You're learning design due to the hands-on nature, so you can become a designer later, right? So you can become a chartered engineer, a consultant, architectural designer. If you're struggling to get jobs as an architect or an engineering designer at the start, you can use Revit to get your foot in the door, and then after that you can transition over to an engineering specific role or an architectural specific role if you don't like it. But a lot of people, especially people internationally that come from other countries to like Australia or Canada or UK for example, struggle to get a job as an engineer or a architect specifically. So the way that you are going to do that is by getting your foot in the door by becoming a modeler. After a few years learning the standards very well, because on the job you will learn these things, and then you can transition over to designer in that company or another company, okay? It requires a bit of hard work, but the only way you're going to do it is by getting through Revit. And so you need to bite that bullet and learn Revit, become good at it, learn the construction documentation, learn the coordination skill set, and then apply and get jobs. Then you can learn project management skills because you'll be dealing with clients and expectations and timelines to produce the drawings, right? So like after that, you can become a BIM manager, director in 5 to 10 years. You can make on average 150K, 180K per year. You can also learn Revit, and later on, if you want, you can start your own thing like freelancing, and you can charge $100 an hour. I have so many examples. I haven't pasted it in here, but if you go on Upwork and you type in Revit modeler, there are people charging $100 US, $150 US. Even if you charge $70 US, that's under market value, but you're still making a lot of money an hour, right? If you work 2 hours a day for the whole year, you make an extra 70K on top of your salary. So like imagine making like a really basic salary of 100K plus 70K on top of that, 180K. You're getting a BIM manager's salary for 2 hours of extra work a day. I'd take that deal 100 times over, right? And so you can do that within the next couple of months is what I'm saying, if you learn Revit very well. And so you can start and the thing is, to learn Revit to the point where you can freelance and take your own clients, you don't only need to learn the basics of Revit, you need to learn how to create drawings. And essentially, if they tell you, hey, here is what I need you to model, can you model this, create some elevation views, section views, and detail everything, you need to know how to do that. That's why I'm saying to become good at Revit is not becoming better at modeling, it's becoming better at detailing and coordinating. And if they say, hey, I want you to log into BIM 360 and then make sure that you're missing all the engineering services when you're designing this, then you're going to have to know how to do that as well, right? So like, it's important that you know these things because you can't become independent if you don't have all the skills. It's like a business person. A business person that starts a brand new business doesn't only need to learn, let's just say I start a barbering business. If you thought that I was just going to be doing cutting hair for the rest of my, like all the time, you'd be wrong, because as a barber, entrepreneur, business owner, I need to learn how to market, sell, cut hair, do my taxes, like do the accounts, right? As an accountant. So I'm wearing 5 different hats as an entrepreneur, as a business owner, as a sales guy, as an accountant, as the guy that takes care of the taxes, as a barber. All these different things I take care of when I become an entrepreneur, right? So like same idea is going to be with if you want to freelance or become independent later on. If you want to become a designer or become an independent architect, you need to learn all the skills so that you have different hats that you know how to wear in order to do the thing when the time comes, right? So again, you could start your own business later on, get your own clients, but to do that, you need to know Revit. You need to know coordination. You can teach Revit to others the same way I'm doing and charge money for it, since it's such a lacking skill in the industry. There's a huge potential there, and it's the one skill, once you master it, will unlock the pathways and doors to everything. Okay, tell me one other skill that gives you this capacity in your career as an engineer or an architect. There is nothing else, and there's nothing else that will give you a competitive advantage compared to Revit. And if you don't know Revit, learn it. If you know it, learn coordination. If you know coordination, become a manager. If you are a manager, become a senior manager or start your own firm. This is the progression. But you need to start by learning Revit, right? So take the next logical step, but you need to start with the first, which is Revit. So wherever you are, most of you guys are either here or here. You know the basics of you've learned how to model like a house in Revit, but you don't know properly the construction set of documents. So you need to do a construction set of documents, right? That is number one. That is what becoming a Revit expert means. And then after that, if you know Revit and you're stuck in your career as a modeler and you want to grow, it's not a function of time, it's a function of learning the coordination skill set. So once you learn coordination, then you grow into the next phase. Okay, those are the 2 steps. And just so you know that I'm not pulling this out of random places, here are examples that I found on the internet of reasons why you need to be learning Revit quickly, right? So like this is from Reddit. I typed in like BIM coordination, Revit, BIM management, BIM, all these buzzwords, and I found all this stuff from different, this is not me, this is different people, right? And this is on Reddit. So like it's weird how this issue is on the internet and people are talking about it in massive threads. Okay, I'm a BIM manager at a structural engineering firm, and we have such a hard time finding experienced individuals. All the experienced drafters get poached a lot, at least the good ones. I settled on hiring detailers who have the structural experience and training them up on Revit. What does this mean? Revit is important. And what does it, like if you think one step deeper, it's not only the fact that Revit is important, he wants to train people up so they know how to detail, right? So like learn how to detail and do a construction set of documents for the company, and that's what they're looking for. Okay, next one. We've hired a few recent grads and interns at my MEP firm, and none of them have touched Revit. They came from prestigious schools. It's not being taught. Okay, insight into the industry. It's not being taught. I didn't learn it when I was in Monash University. I'm a recent graduate and trained heavily over the 4 years of Revit and other software for the construction industry, and blah, blah, blah. If you're using Revit, you are most likely working in a BIM environment. Out of the 12 interviews I went for, every one of them offered me a position with above average graduate salary, okay? Interesting. How do you get 12 interviews back-to-back, 100% success rate with an above average salary? It's because you're learning Revit. It's because you know a bit more than the average person. So it's important to learn this. Interesting. I'm assuming you're based in the USA. UK, it's gone the other way. Technicians have gone from drafting to modeling, to BIM management and coordination. It's a weird but interesting time in the industry. People don't even care about like what degrees you have anymore. People that were from the site and people that were from TAFE and have like a drafting degree are becoming managers, coordinators, senior, like essentially senior engineer status and level they're getting to because they're using Revit in order to grow and learn the skills quickly, right? It is the best way to learn things hands-on. And so this is really simple, like supply and demand. Back when we had that virus, toilet paper rolls were selling for $1,000. Why was that? Because the the demand is heavier than the supply. So obviously, whatever all the experienced drafters are getting poached a lot. It's at least the good ones, okay? So when I say there is a big experience, there's a lot of opportunity learning this skill set. A lot of people say, well, if there's a lot of opportunity, why aren't people knocking down at my doors and saying, hey, here's a job? The reason is because you're not a good one. Okay, that's what I'm trying to say. To become a good one, it's not about becoming an expert at Revit and knowing everything, like the latest tool, right, on Revit, how to do like set up just insane filters and make everything professional and integrate Dynamo. It doesn't matter. What matters is, can you do the basics? What is like the 20% of the work that gives you 80% of the results? Like there's a principle for that. And so the guy starts with a P, but there's a principle for that. It's the 80-20 rule. And what that is learning Revit and then learning the construction set of documents. I've said this so many times, I sound like a broken tape recorder, but I'm going to say it again because a lot of people keep trying to learn other things like Dynamo and get really good at like creating, what do you call them? Filters, and trying to optimize in that sense, right? So we talked about that, right? So you might be thinking to yourself, even though I said there is so much demand for this, why is it that people are struggling to find jobs? It's just what I said. So I'm about to go through that answer in the next part of the video. So I'm about to explain to you like the rest of how to actually step by step how to go through this. But the TLDR is just modeling a complex house or apartment from YouTube is not going to give you the knowledge you need in order for a company to take advantage of your skill. Okay? So you might be thinking, where is all the demand coming? Why isn't all the demand coming from me? It's because learning things from YouTube and just learning how to model is not going to get you anywhere. You need to learn the construction set of documents, okay? So here's what 95% of people are doing. This is what is 100% of the time. This is what is causing career stagnation, and Beyonce is in here, so like keep watching, right? A lot of people think that in order to prove to the employer that they are very good at Revit, they go on YouTube, watch 3 videos on apartments and houses, they model these, they put it on their portfolio, and they present it in job interviews, okay? This is the easiest way for you to lose hope in everything and when you're doing Revit, because it takes a long time to model houses, and if you do like 4 of them, put it on your resume, and you're not getting jobs, then you're gonna be like, well, what's happening? Like, I'm actually trying hard here, but nothing's happening, right? And people think volume is what matters. Volume for modeling and putting on your portfolio is not what matters, okay? Because I'll give you an example. This is Beyonce. If Beyonce came up to you and you didn't know who she was, let's just say that you had no idea who she was, and she sang a song, right? Let's just say she started singing. Obviously, it would sound really nice, right? So, and then would you ask her to sing another 2 songs just to make sure that you know that she knows how to sing? Probably not, all right? That would sound pretty dumb if you asked her to do that. So even if you asked her to sing Mary Had a Little Lamb, you would know just by the way she speaks and how she sounds that she's good at singing. There's no question about it. Even 5 seconds into hearing her, you would know that she knows how to sing, obviously. So then why would you think that you need to have 4 different models of varying complexity on your portfolio in order for your employer to know that you know how to use Revit? Like, more than one is not really going to do the job, but one very deep doing the construction process is going to do the job, right? Would you get your accountant to do your taxes 4 years correctly in a row before you start to trust him? Probably not. It sounds dumb, right? Let's extend the exact same scenario into using Revit. But before we do that, what makes someone a good singer? Let me ask you that question. Think about your favorite singer, rapper, songwriter. What is it that makes them a good singer? Is it the words? Is it the lyrics, the tone, the pauses, the tempo, the background instruments? What is it? If I asked you to pinpoint one thing, you'd probably have a hard time doing it. And the reason for this is because it's not the one thing. It's all the things combined together, which actually comes together, and all these tones and pauses and the lyrics and the tempo and at the right moment, the right pitch, like everything and the instruments, everything coming together is what brings it to life and is what actually moves you, okay? So if you extend this to modeling, just by having a house modeled and having a 3D view saying that this is what I modeled, is just like handing your favorite singer coming up to you and saying, hey, I wrote a new song, and handing you a piece of paper which has all the lyrics of the new song. You'd probably read it and be like, oh, this is a nice song. But like, you wouldn't feel anything and you wouldn't really care, to be honest, right? But if that singer gave you like a CD or a USB or something and you plugged into your computer and you heard the song, then you'd be like, oh, this is the new song, I really like this. So what a lot of people do when they try to apply for jobs is they try to hand in pages with lyrics to a song saying that, hey, this is the new song which I wrote. No one cares, because people can't just look at a song and be like, oh, this guy knows what he's talking about. Because it's not about the song, it's not about the lyrics, it's about everything that comes together to form that. It's about all the knowledge you have that allows you to bring that song to life. And so it's the same thing. Just by having a 3D model, just by modeling 4 different houses, putting it on your portfolio, sending it, it's not going to do anything. You need to show that you know how to do elevation, section views, 3D views. You need to know how to do it properly with the proper graphical presentation, with the proper detailing, right, on the sheets. And so you have if you have a basic understanding about all that, as soon as you go to your interview and you start talking to your employer, it's very hard to fake this. When you start talking to your employer, they will know straight away. Just like when you hear Beyonce, you know after 5 seconds she knows how to sing. They will know that you know what you're talking about, and they will give you the job. This is why I was able to go into a coordinator position or like a BIM modeler position very quickly. BIM modeler position very quickly, coordinator position very quickly. I didn't even have experience as much as other people had in the industry. I still don't have experience compared to what other people have in the industry. 10, 15 years, some people in the industry are not coordinators yet, or are still just starting to learn Revit, right? But I learned it quickly, and because I put myself in positions where I was able to learn quickly, right? And I was modeling. I was always curious, like, what am I modeling? Writing down questions, asking the questions. How do I do coordination? Learning the next skill set, implementing to my current practice, trying to ask, right? Not even caring about getting a promotion in the first place, but doing the work. And then later on, after a year, I would ask for a promotion, things like that. That is my strategy. So just because I'm able to do things like that, that is why I was able to grow quicker than everyone else, right? So I talked about, so that's how I'm making the comparison between singing and Revit modeling. What I was trying to get to was, I lost my train of thought before, but because I was able to do that, everything was inside here. It is not trying to fool someone by saying that I've done this experience. So when someone speaks to me, when I speak to them, they know that I know what I'm talking about. They know that I know the whole construction process. I know how to model HVAC. I know how to coordinate. I know how to model architecture, right? It's very obvious, because when you see the way that I speak about things, when you ask me targeted questions, I know how to answer them, and it's not something you can fake. It's not like you can fake someone. Like if you're not good at singing and I said, hey, I want you to sing for a while, like everyone is going to know if you're good at singing or not, just by the way you sing. But Beyonce can sing for 5 seconds and you'll know straight away if she's good at singing or not. It's as simple as that. So don't be fooled by trying to go for volume, go for quality. Incorrect approach number 2. They don't even try to learn the basics of other services. So the construction process is complicated, right? When you're modeling, you need to understand that whatever stage the project is in, and there's like, when you're modeling, you need to understand that a lot of people are working on the project at the same time. There's MEP drawings, there's structural drawings, there's architectural drawings. And if you do not have a multidisciplinary skill set, like I've been talking about this whole video, then you are actually not going to be able to speak with conviction and confidence when it comes to a job interview. Okay? So like, the way that you get job interviews, even when you do not have a job, is by knowing the things that is by having the knowledge as if you had a job before. Okay? But how do you do that? The way you do that is by going and learning other disciplines, so you have context to think and link things together, right? Just like I explained to you how like Beyonce is relevant. Like I just made Beyonce relevant to BIM coordination. How weird is that, right? The fact that I made Beyonce relevant to BIM coordination is the reason why you can make not your some sort of knowledge that you've learnt in the past relevant to your current position and how you can actually get a job, right? So like you might have done Revit in the past, done a construction set of documents, and now you have the evidence that you know the thing. Then you might have learnt a little bit of MEP, and then you might have taken a small course on architecture and MEP and the construction set of documents and all that. You learnt it. When you go and say, hey, I've done these projects, here's my portfolio, then I did this, then I learned this, then I coordinated this, then I set it up on BIM 360. You're not lying because you've actually done the thing. Doesn't matter if you've done it in a company or done it for yourself. They don't care. It just matters that you've done the thing and you can start providing value straight away when you go into the company. Okay? So like, don't let your lack of experience be the reason that you do not get a job, because lack of experience means that you do not know the basics of other services. Because one of the key things you start to learn when you're in the industry is that it's not only about architecture, it's about everything else as well. So if you learn everything else before you get the job, getting the job becomes this much easier, right? I'm not going to bore you with all that explanation because I'm just going to give you the TLDR. So incorrect approach number 3, they believe that they can apply to existing job openings and get a job. I'm going to say that again. They believe that they can apply to existing job openings and get a job. Doesn't make sense. Does that make sense? Yeah, that's what I mean, right? If there are open jobs right now and you apply to them, don't expect to get a job because it's not enough, right? When people are ready to apply for jobs, what they will do is they will go and they will apply for the first 10 jobs that they see on the job website, like Seek or something, and they'll get rejected from all 10, and then they'll give like some sort of excuse. They'll be like, oh, the construction industry is down these days, jobs are quite challenging to find in the middle of the year, the quarter seems tough, and yeah, because the quarter's ending, then like companies are like not really hiring now. I don't really have much experience anyway, so it's quite hard to find a job because I don't really have the experience. Oh, and I also need to know the standards as well, because like they're not going to let me work if I don't know the standards, right? Or I probably also need to learn Dynamo and Navisworks and how to render. Now that I think of it, probably need to learn interior bathroom design, architectural, facade design as well. There's not really much BIM jobs out there anyway, so I probably need to be an expert at all these things before I start doing that. And so if I had $1 for the number of times I've heard one of these 7 excuses, I'd be very rich, because these are not actual excuses. These are wrong excuses. And the reason this is wrong is because I was able to get a job against all 7 of these. This is the inverse of what I did. I was able to get a job without experience, without a degree, because I was still, like, when I got my first job as a Revit modeler, I was actually in uni. So without experience, without a degree, right? I knew nothing about the construction industry. So like, it was hard, yes, because I'm talking about learning these things now before you actually apply to jobs, but you still can do it. So if I was able to do it without anything, you can do it with something, is what I'm trying to say, right? So the thing is, a lot of people use the excuse that they don't have experience, so they can't get a job. But the thing is, the only reason something would be a valid excuse is if you only have it and no one else has it. Or like, if you were only disadvantaged by that and no one else ever was disadvantaged by that. But the thing is, 100% of the people that have ever worked a job in their life were in a position where they had no experience. So if you say that you have no experience or you can't get a job, you're giving an excuse that 100% of the people had before you, and 100% of the people in front of you will also have. So it's not really an excuse. It's like saying like, oh, I was born with legs so I can walk. Like it doesn't make any sense, right? That didn't make any sense, what I just said. So even this doesn't make any sense. It's as illogical as that, because by saying I don't have any experience so I can't get a job, well, no one had experience before they got a job. So like, it's not only you that are experiencing that. So the reason I'm making this video is so that you understand, okay, forget about the experience. Let's work with what you have. You have determination and you have courage and you have the capacity to learn. Okay, so let's learn it. Let's make some 3D models. Let's do the construction set of documents. Let's learn MEP basics, structural basics, architectural basics. Let's start applying like a maniac in the proper manner in order to get jobs. After a month, after 2 months, you're 100% guaranteed success. It's a formula. It's a math formula. So here's my step-by-step solution, and I've actually been teasing this throughout the whole video, so this is going to be very, very straight and quick and straightforward. Like, step 1, model 1 high-quality construction set of documents. I'm getting very tired towards the end of this, but like, I'll push through this. Model 1 high-quality construction set of documents, right? This is the solution to the issue that we talked about in the previous step. You might think that in order to showcase your skills, you are going to model very complex houses, and a lot of them. What I want you to do is just model 1, and the reason I'm saying 1 is because you're not even going to do the 1, because if I tell you to do 3, you're not going to do it. So I'm going to say 1, okay? Model 1 like office building, and you need to have a proper process behind this. You need to model the elevations, the section views. You need to create the different sheets. You need to do the proper scale on the sheets. You need to do the proper detailing, have partition plans, do details for the walls, right? Know how to actually set this up with the proper graphical, like line weights and everything. How to set everything up on Revit, okay? Then you need to understand the construction process, like how much space you need in the ceiling for different MEP services, how to coordinate the basics of MEP coordination, get a good understanding of that, the approval process, the construction process, the as-built process, like all these things. Learn these things. Once you learn these things, when you go and you speak in a job interview, it'll be the equivalent of Beyonce singing for 5 seconds. They'll know. Like, you can't hide the fact. You can't, no one has ever gotten a job which they believed that they didn't deserve. It's never happened. Because the job which you get, you believe you deserve. So you need to learn so much to the point where you're like, okay, I know everything that a guy that had experience 4 years in the industry knows, which is not hard to learn, by the way. Like, he might have experience, but he will have the same knowledge as you. You can learn the same skill set as someone that's been in the industry for 10, 15 years within a matter of months. And just by learning that, now you have some basis in order to go and actually apply for jobs and get success in that realm, okay? So that's the first thing, construction set of documents. Second thing, understand the basics of the construction process and other services. So you're gonna learn a multidisciplinary skill set. Like I said before, I've been teasing this throughout the whole video, but I'm just consolidating it now. You wanna develop architectural, structural, MEP, and the construction process understanding, so that when it comes to coordination, you know what it means. Like when you look at MEP services in the ceiling, you know when a louver is being coordinated, you know when hydraulics pipe work needs to go through a slab, you know when ductwork needs to go through a slab, you know when something is penetrating a slab or like a riser needs to increase in size. All these things that affect architecture, that affect structure, that affect MEP. Understand these things so that when someone tells you, when you go to a company and someone tries to put you into a coordination meeting and say, hey, you're the architect, you're a modeler, can we get you to join this coordination meeting? You actually have some sort of understanding about what's actually going on in the meeting. Because if you don't know anything, you won't have any understanding and you're just going to be stuck as a modeler. Okay, so that's the second thing. Understand the basics of a construction process and the services. So if you have someone that you know that's in the construction industry, go to them and ask them, get them to teach it for you. Alternatively, I can help you, because I have a link somewhere below which you can book a call with me. I have a program. I can teach you. I pretty much teach this whole thing, and that is the most important thing that you can learn, right? And that is the second thing. In summary, I want you to be comfortable with reading and understanding architecture, structure, MEP plans. Okay. And then the third thing is apply the bulletproof job technique. And this is the final ninja strategy, insane strategy that you're not actually going to do, because it's simple, but it's going to be so simple that you're going to be like, oh, I'm not going to do it. So it's impossible to fail, and I guarantee you that, what I'm about to tell you. But the one thing I can't guarantee is that you'll do it, because as soon as you hear it, you actually won't be able to get yourself to do this consistently. And that's why you won't be able to get, like, if you don't have a Revit job right now, this is why you won't be able to get it. It's because you're not doing this. And if you have a Revit job, this is why you're not going to be able to get a promotion, because you're not doing this either. But you're not going to do this. It's very unlikely, because the statistics of the people that I've told to do this and the people that actually do this are very low if you look at the ratio. The secret you've been waiting for, okay? If you want to guarantee yourself a promotion or a job, the reason you have not been able to do it is because your volume is low. What does that mean? When you apply for jobs, you're only applying for 5, 10 that are available, and the volume is very low. But there's one more thing, the competition is high, because the jobs which you apply for are jobs which are currently on the market. So you apply for 5, 10 jobs that everyone else is trying to apply for, and so volume is low because you're only doing like 5 or 10, and the competition is high because everyone is trying to apply. Okay, so there's two factors, there's volume and competition. Your volume is low and the competition is high. This is the equation of failure. What you want is your volume to be high and the competition to be low. So all you have to do is flip these arrows. How do you do that? Okay, we're going to start applying to companies that are not even looking for people to hire. This might seem counterintuitive, but this is how it's going to work. Okay, first you need to apply to every single company that you can find that has a job opening. That's a non-negotiable. And you'd be surprised how many people just apply to like 10% of the companies that are available rather than 100%. So like if you don't know Revit and you like want to learn Revit first, do a construction set of documents, learn the coordination basics, MEP basics, and then start applying for jobs, you'll be surprised how many people apply for 10 jobs and say like, oh, the industry is not good. apply for so many jobs that you would feel like you feel dumb that you apply for so many jobs. Like, keep applying, right? After you've done that, and after you think that, okay, I've done like good substantial progress there, you have to take the next step, which is start calling companies and asking them for jobs. Google, if you're an electrical guy, electrical contractors near me. If you're a mechanical guy, mechanical contractors near me. If you're an architect, architectural companies near me. Get a list on Google. Call 30 companies a day. Tell them you are looking for jobs. Okay? Cold call companies, tell them you're looking for jobs, and they are all going to say no. But this is the statistic, because if the first guy said yes, then everyone would have a job, right? One person will say come in for an interview, and the second guy will say come in for an interview. And if I guarantee, if you do this for 30 days straight, calling 30 companies a day, putting it on your Excel spreadsheet, writing when you're meant to follow up, some people will just say, hey, send me an email with your details, and you send them your CV, your cover letter, and then maybe in 6 months they tell you, like, or maybe in 3 months they tell you, hey, we have an opening, do you want to come in for an interview? This is what you need to do in order to succeed, and in order for you to brute force your way into a job if you have no experience at all. All right, learn so that you are in the best position possible. After you've done that, position yourself as someone that knows, and most of the time positioning is by actually having the evidence that you know the thing. So there is no trick that is going to make you seem like you're an expert at Revit. It is actually by becoming good at Revit. And becoming good at Revit doesn't mean you're doing 10 models. It means you're doing one model very well with the construction set of documents and understanding MVP basics and the construction basics. Once you do that, once you start calling companies, once you start getting interviews, it'll be very obvious when they speak to you that you know what you're saying, that you know. And so a lot of people will be happy to take you on as someone that is very junior and getting trained up, because you've already done most of the training. You just need to learn like some of the company standards, right? So 30 companies, 30 days, keep calling, say that you're looking for a job and that you know Revit and you've done projects and you've done construction documents and you're very skilled in terms of all these things. If they ask you questions, you'll know how to answer them as well. So it's not like you're trying to trick your way into a job. You know, you're confident. So the point of the first half of this whole video is trying to tell you why you need to learn all these things in order to provide value to a company, because when they eventually start asking you questions and when you become successful, when they say come into interviews, you'll be confident because you know what to say, okay? And so do this for 30 days and I guarantee you'll have interviews lined up and you'll get a job, okay? It doesn't matter that people say no, because a lot of people will say no. After you make maybe 150, 200 calls, some person will say come in for an interview and you'll get that job. That job will turn into the thing you work in for the next 5, 10, 15, 20 years. So it doesn't matter that people said no. And the sad thing is I'm telling you this right now, but like a lot of people are not going to do it because they're going to think like, oh, it's too hard, or you're going to do it for 2 days and you're going to stop. But this is actually a secret, and that's why I've left it until the end of the video. This is what I did in order to get my first job as a graduate. Working while I was in uni, I cold called 30 companies a day asking for jobs, and it wasn't until 3 years later one of the companies in the first year said come in for an interview, and that's the company which I work at, right? But I didn't do cold calling for 3 years. I did it for a couple months, and then I got some other internships in other companies. But then 2 years later, in my end stages of my uni degree, the companies that I called at the start of my start of the year, when I was a fresh high school, fresh uni student, said, hey, you know how you called us 3 years ago? We have your information on file. Come in for an interview. Got that job. Been working there ever since. And so you might not know. Think of it like this. The reason, if you're thinking that getting demoralized because it takes 3 years, the reason it took 3 years is because I told you, I didn't know Revit. I was telling them, hey, can you teach me Revit for free? I don't even know it. And so that's why they were saying no to me. So it makes sense. But the reason positioning is so important is when you learn all these skills, then you start calling, then it's easy to get a job within a couple of months. But if you don't, and you're going the approach where you're just calling and you don't have experience and you're asking them to pretty much use all their resources to train you, then of course it's going to take years. And that's where a lot of you guys are. You guys are calling, you guys are applying, and then you're not getting anywhere. But the reason is because when they talk to you or when they look at your CV, it's quite obvious that you don't really know Revit and the BIM skill set. So it's important to learn the BIM skill set. So the summary of this whole video is that when applying to companies or trying to get a promotion, do not hand in lyrics and expect them to take you seriously. You need a complete skill set and you need insider knowledge to the next skill set before you even have it, okay? Simply learning Revit isn't enough. You need to know the construction process, the services like MEP, architectural, structural, as well as the basics of coordination. This is the BIM skill set. If you do not have this, you're not likely to stand out. So it's essentially like you're handing in lyrics and expecting someone to be wowed by your lyrics, right? The reason you may not stand out is because you have the Revit skill set and not the BIM skill set. When I told you at the start, the BIM industry is doubling in the next 5 years, I said the BIM industry. I didn't say the Revit industry. So learn the BIM skill set, not the Revit skill set. Hopefully by now you have a direction and a step-by-step guide in which path you need to take to propel, succeed in your career, and you understand what it means to be a Revit expert. It's not becoming really good at Revit. It's by learning Revit and then being like, okay, what are the other things that I can add so that I'm like a complete package now? Think about it as like an entrepreneur, like someone that is starting a business. You don't go like, I'm going to become a really good barber first and then that's it. That's all I need to learn. No, you need to become proficient at barbering and then you need to spend time learning the other things like accounting, marketing, sales, right? Logistics. Combine all those things together. Now you're a successful business owner that makes more money, right? It's not like one skill that's going to take you. It's not learning Revit to the absolute extreme that's going to take you to the next level. It's learning the things holistically, all these different things that someone in the industry would have already known. Okay. And if you want to learn everything that I just talked about, if you want to learn that from me, I can teach you within months. I have a link somewhere below. Book a call with me. We can speak. And I can see if you're suitable to work with me. So see you guys in the next one. This was a really long video, but I wanted to explain to you exactly how I think so that you can start to grow in your career.